a quick explanation to help understand the different kinds of conditionals that we have in Nihongo. We've seen a conditional before. It's something that we call the natural if, and we did it when we did directions in Japanese 11. And this is the idea of if or when you do this, this is the obvious outcome. And the thing to remember with this is there's no control, there's no sort of hypothetical. I kind of think of it like a rock rolling down the mountain. When it starts, this is the actual thing that will happen. As it goes down the mountain, there's no stopping it once it occurs. Often we use it with when, like when you'll go to Robson Street, you'll see a lot of visitors, or if you go to New York, you're going to see a lot of shops. In other words, you can't avoid doing that if this situation is in place. But there's two other kinds of ifs, a little bit more what we call hypothetically based. And the first one, the difference in Japanese is that we use two different constructions or two different ways of making the if. One that emphasizes the if and one that emphasizes the then, because conditional sentences are sort of always if something happens, then something else is going to happen. The first one we're going to look at is the one that most people actually kind of like, which is it's not that if something occurs, it's what's going to happen once that thing occurs. So in other words, it's what we call focus on the then. It's also called the tada if in Japanese. And it's called the tada if because it relies on the plain past. And you'll remember that the plain past for nouns or adjectives or verbs usually ends with ta or da, plus the addition of a da. So, もしうるさかったら静かに話さなければならない. If or only when it's noisy, then please speak quietly. もし雨だったら, if it was to rain, oh, thank goodness, I'm so happy about the outcome, I think I'll sleep. And もしお金をもらったらいいですね, which is the idea of everything would be good if I got, once I get that particular money. Often starts with moshi. Moshi means nothing on its own, but moshi is kind of the ear alert to a listener that you're going to talk about a conditional if. And one of the other ways to remember to use it is if the outcome, if the part two has a request, permission, suggestion, let's, or not allowed. In other words, it's not some kind of statement of fact. Because if it was a statement of fact, then maybe you're more focused on the if occurring. Back it up and just think, if you use the tada if, you're often in the second part having something happen based upon that occurring, and that's why requests, please do this. If it were to rain, please go home. If it's so-and-so, please ask permission to do something. If the thing is going to be cheap, shall we buy it? If it's going to be sunny, let's go do that. Oh, no, if it's too expensive, then I'm not allowed to go. All of those kind of things are what we call hypothetical. The other kind of if places the stress on the if part. And I kind of something like, this is my dream if this were to happen kind of thing. If something were to happen, then something would occur. But this is what I really want to stress. And in this particular case, we use a different construction and we add a ba on it. And all you really need to do to make this particular structure is to think of a couple things. In group one, think of the can-do form, like yomemas, yomeru, yomeba. So just take the plain present of the can-do form, yomemas, yomeru, and then switch off the ru and add that ba in. For group two, just switch off the mas and add reba. Remember, group two, you just drop things and add things. This one is always about changing. Group three, it's kureba and sureba. E adjectives, it's dropping the E. We know to do that whenever we play with things. And na adjectives, we never touch. So we either add nareba or de areba. だからね、安い、安ければ、有名なれば. When we look at this particular one, it's always the first part, いいですね, that you're worried about. In this case, you'll see the exact same sentences from above, but in this case, I'm placing the emphasis here on the if part, not on the outcome. So if I had $1 million in my dreams, I would be rich. If only it would be noisy, then we could talk quietly. If only it would rain, I think I'll sleep. If only it was convenient, I'd go. If only I had my money, wouldn't that great? And you're stressing to your listener that this is the part that you're concerned about. So, just to keep it, the tada if something has occurred, so then something can happen, and that's the part I'm really happy about. The reba if is the if part, and the to if is both parts because you can't control sort of what goes on with each of them. So let's look at our little boy at the supermarket, and he says ka-chan. And if he was going to say ka-chan, if he used the tada if, kattara, taberareru. Tabete mo ii, gomen ne, tabete mo ii. So, okay, if you bought that, can I please eat it? That's what he's going on about. If he says kaeba, then he's saying, oh, ka-chan, if only you'd buy it, things would be good. And if he's saying kauto, then he could talk about okane kakaru. It will cost money. You got no choice. Kauto okane kakaru. You would have no choice. It would cost you money. Kattara tabete mo ii. If you bought it, may I be allowed to eat it? Request. And the only way you can do that is if that happens. Kaeba ii, in my dreams, if only you would buy that for me, things would be good. Kauto okane kakaru. If or when you buy it, it's going to cost you money.